I want to get to this Ja Morant thing because I don't want to go down the road of wokeness completely, and I don't want to get into all the issues that somebody can ruin their career and it be over because they say something that they shouldn't have said. Some things are inflammatory, some things are offensive, and some people need to be checked when they say stupid things. It's also very stupid. I want to be clear that Ja Morant flashing around a gun is not the best idea. Probably is not a good sign of the path that he's heading at. If you didn't know, he's a guard for the Memphis Grizzlies, one of the most talented players in the NBA, and has the potential to be one of the best players, perhaps of all time, if you want to talk about a top 100 type of list. And here's my issue with the Ja Morant thing and the NBA, who's going to give him a lengthy suspension. And he had 2 times where he's flashing a gun on social media. And they told him once not to do it, and he did it. And I understand the employee-employer relationship. If you tell somebody to do it and you're their employer, just don't do it if you want to continue to work for them. However, here's my issue with this, Caleb, is I have a friend who shoots coyotes because there's too many coyotes in the Knoxville area. And he's got the laser sighting and everything. And does he make it a sport and does he make it fun? Yes. There's nothing illegal about it. It needs to happen. I don't think Ja Morant needs to show a gun. However, we don't have any proof that he did anything illegal. And I bring this up because it's going to happen. Either gambling or guns or both are going to happen at the collegiate level. It is a matter of time because they now have money to do those things that they theoretically didn't have before. So the NBA wants to suspend him and make this lengthy suspension, but he hasn't done anything illegal. Caleb, he hasn't even so much as failed a drug test. To me, this is very problematic of an overreaction. And I know you know the specifics of Ja Morant. More specifically, you're a Grizzlies fan, and feel free to touch base on that. But I'm more along the lines of, listen, are you telling me he can't have guns or he can't show them? Now, Tennessee had an incident with Tyler Smith. That was a gun in which the registration was scratched off. That's a felony. That's wrong. Period. End of discussion. You should not be a collegiate athlete anymore. So I'm not soft on this, but I'm not just going to jump on board and say, because this guy has a bunch of people surrounding him and makes bad decisions, that he should be denied his ability. It's already cost him like $30 million or something, that he should be denied the ability to make his money. And I'm going to be in the minority of this, Caleb. I know I am. But if he hasn't broken a law, then what are we doing here? What's the reaction? To me, it's an overreaction.
Yeah, and here's why I totally disagree. And
that's fine. And I do respect that.
One, this isn't canceling Ja. I think if anything, a harsh suspension is helping Ja, because you're right. He has the chance to be one of the best players of all time. For those who don't follow the Grizzlies like I do, there was a significant regression from year 3 last year to year 4 this year. And I kept wondering why he didn't improve. It sounds like he didn't improve because he was too busy partying and clout chasing and doing all those things in the all season. And that's annoying enough. And I wanted to focus more on basketball. But also going down this path, all right, on a broad sense, Dave, I want to just first say, Ja's not hood. He grew up in a very nice neighborhood in South Carolina, went to Murray State in Kentucky. He thinks he has this credibility now because he lives in Memphis. Spoiler alert, you probably know this, even though you're from Knoxville. Memphis is not the place to pretend to be hood.
Okay, but let me, if I can, let me divert the path just a little bit. The NBA, yes, is looking out for their best interest in Ja Morant because they want him to be a star player.
Which is looking out for Ja's best interest then.
Yeah, but that is not his. That shouldn't be their job in terms of preventing him from being an athlete. Now, it's going to cost him money in endorsements. It's already costing money because he couldn't get the Supermax contract. But listen, if he hasn't broken laws, and having a gun is legal, guys, I mean, it's part of Constitution, the Bill of Amendments. I mean, the Bill of Rights. It's an amendment. To me, it reeks of an overreaction. I know it's bad, but it doesn't seem to me they're within their rights. And the only reason they are is because there's not an ABA. There's nowhere else for him to go.
Well, where I was getting at, though, is this gun thing. This was a probation thing. Basically, other players probably could flash their guns. Ja Morant was on thin ice, not just because of the previous time he flashed a gun on IG Live. Dave, I am a firm believer the NBA covered for Ja Morant last time. When he did it last time, he was in Colorado at a strip club. Colorado has a law against holding guns when you're drunk in public. That's a very, very strict law. Now, they couldn't prove he was drunk because you can't really prove that. But Dave, come on. Do you think he was drunk? I think he was drunk.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but I do know my friends like to go to bars and I like to socialize, and I don't happen to drink. So I can't say that 100%. The bottom line is he wasn't even charged, much less convicted.
But then the NBA has their own rule, which is no guns on team planes. The question becomes, Ja claims that gun wasn't his. But if there's no guns on team planes, how did that gun get from Memphis to Colorado when they played Denver?
Okay, I'm playing naive, Dave. I realize he took it, all right, but he could have theoretically gotten it there, bought it because he liked that gun at a gun shop and had it shipped back. I mean, there is no proof that he broke a law.
My personal belief is the NBA believes he did and was willing to cover for him with the 8-game suspension, but told him he's on thin ice. This last thing wouldn't be bad on its own. It's a straw that broke the camel's back. Because on top of those things, let's not forget, the guy who filmed Ja, that guy is banned from NBA games for a year because he flashed a laser pointer at the Pacers team bus when Ja got in the car with him after a Grizzlies-Indiana game, and the Pacers thought it was a gun. They thought it was a sniper rifle. And so think about these. And then there's another point where Ja Morant used his status to threaten a security guard at a mall because the security guard was having a dispute with his mom over a discount on shoes.
But Caleb,
I mean, the guy's been getting an incident after incident.
I don't care. I don't care what happens to Ja Morant. Give me one law he broke. Now, D says employers often have rules that differ from the law. He's not going to jail. He does have a responsibility to his employer. Okay, so is their rule you can't flash guns on social media?
No, I think the rule is the employer probably said to Ja, you specifically, Ja, can't flash guns on social media because you specifically have gotten caught in way too many incidents already, and you are on thin ice. If LeBron James flashes a gun on social media, which he never would because LeBron's never had a legal issue and has never even hinted. I don't even know if he has a gun. But if he did it, I don't think he'd get suspended. If Jokic does it, he's probably not getting suspended. If so many other players do it, they're not. But Ja, this was an incident in a string of incidents where it's it was basically from the NBA. He was on NBA probation, which is Ja is not allowed to flash a gun on Instagram Live because he's been so utterly reckless and stupid within the past year with so many different incidents that I think now, and he's been humiliating the NBA in the process by doing it. And I think the NBA finally had to say, we're coming in now. On principle, I would agree with you. He broke no law, but he's done so many other stupid things leading up to this. And I think the NBA, it's fair for an employer to say, you can't by the way, for instance, employers, a lot of times, if someone posts a lot of reckless stuff on Facebook, they'll go to that person. Yeah, it's legal. You got freedom of speech, but the employer will be like, you're making us look bad when you post this crazy stuff. You're not allowed to post on Facebook anymore. They do that all the time.
Okay. First, the NBA's full of it by what you just said. They probably propped him up to get him through this. And now with the latest incident, they're not going to prop him up anymore. They're also full of it that if this was a second string player that never played, he would have been booted the first time. Okay. And they're also overly sensitive, I believe, because of the debate on gun laws. And I don't want to go political. I'm not going to share you my thoughts on gun laws, but I do know from when I watch the news, I evaluate the media as much as I take in the news. And I know that it seems as if there's a shooting that leads off the story on the news. And I hate public shootings. That's awful. I mean, I don't take this the wrong way, please. But at the end of the day, what affects more people it's probably the fact that we have a debt that we're about to default on. But if you watch the lead story, it's always about a shooting or 2 days after a shooting, a follow-up. And it really bothers me that I feel like the NBA and some people are making this a hot button issue, but particularly the NBA. Now, what would happen in college? If you flash a gun in college, would you immediately be suspended, kicked off a team? What would be the reaction? Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I also think there's a bit, quite frankly, of a race issue in here. And I think that I can't remember his name all of a sudden, but the center who had 3 girls in his room, when they went into his room, they finally got into his room. He had rifles laying all over the place because he was a hunter. Well, we
Chris Kaman, right?
Was that
Chris Kaman with the Rockets?
No. The center for Tennessee football.
Oh,
center.
okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. His name suddenly escapes me. But there were rifles laying all over the place because he was a hunter. Now, if that's an African American with 45s or Berettas laying all over the place because they like to collect guns like he did, I think that gets played out way different.
I don't disagree with you, but I think at that point I would be the first person to defend the white or the black guy with the guns. I can't bring myself to defend Ja Morant because, again, this isn't in a vacuum. It is a string of things, and I'm going to be honest. The NBA, you're right, did it to themselves. They've been covering for Ja Morant. I think they know a lot of shady stuff Ja Morant's done behind closed doors that they haven't let get out there because they want to protect their asset. And so this was finally for them. Like, think about this. You and I both agree the NBA suspended Michael Jordan for gambling on basketball in '93, right? We both probably believe that.
Yes.
Okay. Say 1996 rolls around and Michael Jordan is seen shooting craps in Vegas. Well, at that point, the NBA might come down harder on him than they would somebody else shooting craps because they already almost got humiliated by Michael Jordan gambling on the sport. And so that's where I think they're at with Ja, is that they gave him a lot of leeway because he's a rising superstar. You're right. If he's a backup second stringer, they'll cut him in a heartbeat. They gave Ja.
For the record, it was Josh McNeil.
Oh, he was the. Oh, I was thinking basketball. You said center.
Josh McNeil. D says my son has a position in the government. He would be fired. He makes any negative comments about the president, Trump, Biden, Clinton, or Bush. When in the military, he could have been sent to prison. Okay, well, I kind of get that. I mean, you're working for the government. I get that. But if I went out and I'm touching on the race issue here. If a professional athlete, and I guarantee you there's been one, shot a picture of himself with a rifle because he was on a hunting trip and he was like a Caucasian guy, it wouldn't be viewed as the same way as the way that Ja Morant has flashed a gun. And there might not be completely racially biased, but I think it's somewhat racially biased.
I could agree with you with the public perception. I don't think it would be different, though, in like how an institution would handle it in terms of the NBA punishment. I mean, look, you're right. We're in Tennessee. Wasn't there a Tennessee politician that sent out a Christmas card of him and his family all holding AR-15s last year?
Like, I seem to remember that. Did he get in any trouble for it, or did it just blow over?
It just blew over, yeah.
Was he not allowed to be in Congress for the next 50 days? Like Ja Morant's going to get at least a 50-game suspension.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I just don't like it in a lot of different ways. It's not our job to police him. If he wants to ruin his career, go for it. If he wants to ruin making millions of dollars because of a status symbol of a gun, and listen, whether you're using a gun for protection, it's like a car. Use a car to get to point A to point B. You might just use a really inexpensive Yugo, or you might happen to like an Audi. Okay, so there is something of a status symbol to that. So you might just have a gun, a little Walther P.P. King, as protection that you keep on your person, or you might have just a traditional rifle that you use in hunting. But there are some people that like to show off their guns because they're the nicer guns. To me, that to me, it's a status symbol, and it's going to happen at the college level. It's a matter of time.
It's not just looking out for Ja, though. It's looking out for itself. So the NBA needs Ja more than you know, because Ja Morant, in an era of Steph Curry, where I'm sorry, the way the game has changed, people used to say the three-pointer was the entertainment part of the game. It's not entertaining anymore. Too many people shoot threes, and it's become boring. Nobody runs an offense. So in an era where you get a Ja Morant, who it's kind of a throwback to an athletic guard, AI, a Michael Jordan, not Michael Jordan, but I'm saying a guy who's ridiculously athletic, who scores from the mid-range, and that's entertaining. On top of that, he plays for one of the small market franchises, and the NBA has a problem with their small market franchises just drawing no interest. So there's so many things Ja brings to the table that I think the NBA honestly needs Ja as much as Ja needs Ja at this point.
Yep. It's going to happen, guys. It's going to happen. That or gambling. By the way, Travis says, Caleb, do you know what a Yugo is? Probably not, because he's young. Do you know what a Yugo is?
I do not.
Oh my gosh. It was like a terrible car made out of I think Yugoslavia. I think so.